Hello, gorgeous being, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I just want to say I'm tuning in from Guatemala today. So, if the internet cuts out at any point and we have a glitch in it, that's normal. If you can hear animals in the background or something else like sounds, that's also very normal here. Just so I said that. We have just discussed a long time. We should have actually recorded everything that we discussed before, but we decided that with today we want to take another angle on the feminine empowerment, and it's going to be about beauty and beauty standards. Just because I found that was very inspiring, and I also actually want to have a critical look on what beauty standards are we both following that maybe actually are not for in our highest alignment anymore, or is like influenced by society, media, people around us, or what we have learned in general. Yes. So for me, I think it already starts where we're sitting right now. We always, both of us, are get ready to do these podcasts because I personally, for me, the clothes that I wear, the jewelry that I wear, has a lot of impact how confident I feel in speaking. So I've noticed that a long time ago that it's always different. The colors I want to wear every day is different, but it makes a big impact how I feel confident. Today I feel more soft and more a bit like sensual. So it's like more soft colors, soft fabrics on my skin, soft jewelry. And this helps make me feel beautiful. And this can go from one second to the other, right? I think this is really important as a self-employed person as well. Is that I could be in my pajama look and I know I need to be ready for a call with a client or for this podcast. I just put on a nice kimono, put on jewelry, and there I go. And I feel confident and beautiful. And I think that's super interesting because what makes the difference between why do I, for example, maybe think I am less beautiful or less confident, or I feel less confident when I'm in my pajama look than compared to when I'm wearing my jewelry. Yeah, that's just a little bit at the start on a take on for me. What do you have to say there?
Yeah, okay, so let's just go ahead. I was the one that kind of maybe came through with the inspiration for today's video. With the time change, it's a little bit now difficult for us to both be in the morning or both be in the afternoon, not just difficult, impossible. So yeah, for Jen, it's all early morning, and for me, it's like mid-afternoon, which is when I start to wind down. So this is the time of day where my hair is not curly anymore, it's frizzy, and I'm not feeling my freshest, and I'm not feeling the most inspired, perhaps. But this is just like you said, it's like it's for when I want to, because maybe it's because of the fact that, I am my brand. Um, so I want to portray my brand, but not to portray a brand that isn't me. I want to make sure that this is understood, right? It's not like I'm making an effort to seem like something that I'm not. If not, I want to always show up as my best self in any way possible, and especially in my brand. So yeah, I feel like things that come up in this case is, for example, okay, this is maybe one that is not as relevant as it used to be, but you know how there used to be a lot of judgment over tattoos and etc. And so, in a lot of jobs, you've got people covering up their tattoos, which is essentially covering up their purest essence. Obviously, they're probably working in jobs that are not their brand, and so they cannot actually show themselves with that authenticity. But yeah, worrying about whether my hair looks good, whether this or that for my brand, it's not so much for how I'm received, if not more about how I am expressing myself. Just again, as a clarification, because I want to feel good. And you use the word confidence. I think like that's really important for us to feel confident in what we're saying and what we're doing. We it helps us. We spoke about this last week when you said something similar, about authenticity. You express yourself authentically through the way that you adorn your vessel, your temple. And I think that, yeah, there's a fine line, or there are several fine lines in the different aspects of this theme also that we're going to be able to discuss and get a lot out of.
For sure, 100%. I think that's super, super important. And I think every now and then it's also important to see the standards that I'm upholding, are they actually still aligned with who I am today? Yes. And actually, there I have had a huge change happening, like I think 4 or 5 years ago, when I did a lot of programs at the same time that really changed who I was. Like if I look at pictures 5 years ago, I'm like, who is this person and who am I now? Um, so in that discovering who I really am, I had a lot of realizations around beauty that I was like, oh, actually, I feel really comfortable adorning my body and adorning my vessel. And this is actually my truth that I was suppressing because obviously growing up in the 90s, where the standard of what a woman has to look like is was so defined and shaped. Like I grew up with the models that had to be super, super, super skinny when all the pop stars like the Spice Girls and whatever else that was up there, they were just defined by their looks. So I was rejecting that for a long time because I was like, I want to be known for my personality, my character, my brain. I'm obviously Gemini. I want to be known for my brain, and I'm also like a natural blonde. So I had for a long time in my early 20s, I was dyeing my hair really dark because I didn't want to be perceived as stupid because that was the portray in the 90s and the early 2000s for blonde people, right? Ah, the Barbies. Yes, I will be a natural Barbie. I'm like super blonde. So anyway, recovering that in this when I did all these coaching programs and other programs and teachings, I realized that I actually innately do really like to feel pretty, put on glitter, put on shiny things, gold, silver, have really nice garments, and that was really changing something massive within me. And it is true. It is actually, I like that you said it is, it has a lot to do with my brand as well. My brand, my business has my name. So my face is is at the front of it all. So therefore, for me, it is really important. Authenticity is important. So I don't need to show up every day as gorgeous or as stunning or glowing because that's also not the truth. But it is really important because I want to be an inspiration. And I want to be an inspiration of like, hey, it doesn't have to be hard. It can be so simple. And actually, we're talking a lot just about the external. For me, the internal is actually the most important where the beauty comes from. And that's what you most likely see in both of us. We are taking care of the food we eat. We take care of our like whatever we take into our body. For me personally, I mainly eat organic food. I have like cacao, like super high quality cacao. I have my supplements that I'm taking. I'm putting like really high quality oils on my skin. So it's also taking care of my body as the vessel because I want to have it for another, I don't know. I'm like, I have to calculate for another many, many years. So I need to take care of it right now. Like if we started with it when we're 50, it's actually too late. We got to do it now. So that for me has also a lot to do about beauty. That I think is just innately, it happens when you start taking care of your body from the inside, it starts happening on the outside as well. And that's just a take on the body. Then we could go into the whole topic of like taking care of our emotions and psychological needs, like going have coaching therapies, doing sessions and really taking care. That makes has a lot of impact on what I look like as well, right?
Absolutely. I love that you said that. I mean, I think that's how we come to our radiance. We take care of the vessel inside, outside, the filters that we use to function, the heart filter, the emotions, the mind filter, the ego. We need to work on all aspects of self. I perhaps want to go back to what you were saying about the body because I think that it's where I was hearing more things. Um, yeah, so basically, in my own experience, for me to get to where I am today, where I have stripped myself of the need to adhere to any kind of beauty standard, coming from growing up in Sydney and then being like the it girl in the small town where I moved to in my teens because I had all like I don't know my mom would continue to send me stuff from Australia before they moved to Spain. my story is anyway, tangent. I always had like the latest stuff before it would arrive in Spain, so it was like the it girl, right? So I kind of grew up this way. And in my 20s, all of a sudden, I wanted a juicier upper lip. And I wanted to use the baby Botox to avoid the 11s. And all of these, things that get pushed onto us. Like, oh, it's in fashion now. Everybody's getting the baby Botox. They push it through celebrities. It's this it's I can't think of the word right now, but it's culture, something culture. But anyway, um, yeah, I had to take myself out of that to come to this point where you say, I love my body. I'm somebody that's gone through a lot of also eating disorders and body dysmorphia. And so to actually get there, it took me a long time, but I had to start looking at, like you said, what am I eating? What am I putting into my body? What am I not putting into my body that my body needs? And I think that the thing that is, apart from the fact of the standards, like even in Europe, we can see a different regulations for the food that we consume, the food that we're sold, than, for example, in America, which is kind of turning around now, I believe, with Kennedy in there. But yeah, we are putting a lot of our things into our bodies that, first of all, should not be they should not be being sold to us. First of all, that should not be a good thing. But it's more of the lack of awareness. I mentioned in a video, as women, we actually do need specific nutrients and more so through the different cycles or the different parts of our cycle. There is a big lack of awareness of this. Um, yeah, I feel like I'm going off on different tangents now. But definitely, I think it's got to do with, yes, coming to that love with the body where you have to really let go of all of these stereotypes and then just kind of force yourself to look at what are you consuming. And this is, I think, where I was more going with the food that we eat because it's more to do with consumption, not just the food that you're putting into your body. Like you said about the mentality, right? So, what are you consuming on your phone? Are you consuming this culture of you're never going to be young again and you have to make sure that you maintain yourself this way and just keep bettering yourself and just keep comparing yourself to all these girls that don't have the 11s, that have the big juicy lips and have, you've even got um, you even got girls that have like they're getting Brazilian bum lifts and then they're using their perfect Brazilian bum lift to make videos for other girls saying, "Oh, use these exercises to get your ass in shape." And so many of us don't realize that we're falling prey to gimmick. We're falling prey to collective sheepism. I think that's where I was going with it.
I love it. Can you just quickly, because I actually don't know about that. What is that 11 thing that you're saying? Because I think if I don't know it, then many others might not also not know it.
So ones are when you have like one wrinkle here from frowning, and 11s is when you have both marked from frowning. And so the baby Botox thing became a thing because you were apparently going to avoid them coming out. I mean, you've obviously got your Botox people that are doing whatever they want. And I'm not shaming, okay? I need to say this. I'm not shaming anybody because I did. When I was 20, I got my baby Botox. I got the acid in my lips. But I've never done it again because I needed to come to that, like I said, that point where I love myself, um, which I think is just so crucial because the more you love yourself, the more you're open to actually being properly loved. And so many things change in your life, as you know, Jen. You call in a lot of beautiful things. So yeah, I think it's a lot of about the consumption.
For sure. And it's also not that easy as women to have a healthy relationship with our body and our beauty because there is like you said, that it was so interesting to hear all of those different things. Like I mean, I'm not that much into these topics. I don't even know those Brazilian bum things. But it's true. Like if there is people on Instagram really showing their body and like saying, oh, you just need to do this exercise for a month and you will have the same ass, but they actually got surgery, that you're never gonna get there. And then also what like we all have a very unique posture, not posture, body,
Physio-
like the physical looks, right? Like for some of us, it will actually never be possible. So it's more about learning to embrace what you look like right now. Like we have innate people who have a more mass in their body, wider shoulders, more ass, more belly, more boobs. We can't have just one unique look that we need to follow. And this has always been the case for women. For centuries, there was different looks. Like once it was deemed to be beautiful to be more have more mass, like be more a bit obese. So if you were skinny, we're not deemed beautiful. And then we had this like anorexic skinny looks in the early 90s or in the early 2000s. And then it was more the sporty. And now it's like this massive asses, right? Like insane massive asses that, yes, for some people and some cultures, actually this is just the norm. But for my biology, it's not. So if I try to follow that and I compare myself to that, that's actually where it all goes down to comparison. And again, following like the one single line, this is what women have to look like and follow and be. And otherwise, if you're not in this, you're not deemed beautiful. So that is also really weird. And if I would compare myself to that standard, I have a lot of things that don't match. Like for me personally, for a lot of times throughout my teens, 20s, early 30s, I have always had a healthy relationship with my body. Most likely, I would say, but still, has this been these days, especially when we go through cycle as women, it's very normal that we are more bloated because our womb takes up space because she is like filling up. She's like using a lot of energy. She's just like, hey, here I am. And then we have a belly, right? And especially like now I'm in my mid 30s. Um, it's very dominant. So I still struggle with that. And I'm still like, oh my goodness, why am I not so skinny as I used to be? Anyway, it's like a lot of things like that. Then personally, but related to the body, I would say for me it has been less dominant. But for me, it's like the face. I think there is like a very defined beauty standard in the face, especially if like the left and the right part of your face is match or something like that, and the size of your nose, the lips, and everything. And if you look at my face closely, you would very likely see that I'm not deemed the standard beauty of a face. But it's also embracing what we look like. Like I can't change it. I don't want to change it. I don't want to have any surgery anywhere. But it's this learning to embrace it because yes, I have a unique beauty that not many other people have, but it is. And do I want it to be standardized? No, I don't.
I love what you're saying there because at each different point, I've just been hearing diversity. And I think that this also it ties in with a lot of different things that we've been talking about. We spoke, for example, about sisterhood and we spoke about empowering each other in our unique medicines, in our unique paths, in our unique experiences. This is diversity celebrating that we all look different, that we all have different body types, that we all have different hair, different eyes, different mannerisms. Diversity is what makes us authentic. Diversity is what makes the world more beautiful. And we're talking about beauty, right? So, how can the beauty standard all of a sudden have become cookie cutter? Beauty is diverse. I love what you said also before about, the how we've seen throughout the different decades, and it's only decades. How are we supposed to keep up with these trends and not let our health suffer? This decade we're going to be skinny as noodles. Next decade we're going to be gym bums. Next decade we're going to let it all go and we're just going to get surgery to get Brazilian bum lifts, little wasp waists, and the big boobs. I mean, again, not shaming. If that's what you want, go for it. If that's what you feel inside of yourself, that that is your authenticity and you're not going to be happy without it, please do that. But I realize that it is not my authenticity and that's not what I want to do with it. But anyway, so yeah, just going through health, these yo-yos and all of these changes, we can't be doing this to our nervous system, to our hormones, to But yeah, diversity was just what was coming through me. And I just really want to make that loud and clear. Diversity is beauty. Beauty is diversity. So celebrate how different you are. Celebrate and I'm going to go into self-pleasure now. Celebrate your body, feel it, love it, massage your breasts, touch your face, love yourself. You so deserve it.
For sure, 100%, 100%. First of all, I do think that it sometimes is very difficult to actually find your truth in that. So if you're just following the media and the images that are shown, it's very difficult for you to know what is your truth. So I also don't judge people that do get surgeries, but I do question if it actually is their innate truth, because I think if in our innate truth is always actually what we are look like right now.
I mean, yes, you
Yeah.
chose this
Yeah,
people.
exactly. Except if you have health issues. If you have health issues, there are people out there. I know I have friends who had to get breast reduction. I don't know what the right term is here. Let's leave that. It is right. Okay. Because they had back pain. That's okay. So, but if you really want to change your looks because you think will make you happier, or you just first sit down and listen. Am I just caught up in the whole wheel of having to follow what everyone else looks, or is it my innate truth? And if it is your innate truth, 100% follow it. And if it's not, then you actually should rather work on that. Low self-esteem, doubting, lack of confidence, because you're actually thinking that if you change that about your body, you will have self-worth, self-love, confidence. You will be deemed pretty by yourself and everyone else. But guess what? It's not going to work. That's why people get addicted to surgeries and things like that.
Mm.
There was another topic that I wanted to speak about, but I might
Well,
have forgotten it.
I just want to say that what you just said there is really powerful, I think. Um, Figuring out that innate truth, definitely having to go into why do I feel this way? Is it purely because what I am seeing around me, or is it that I feel inside of myself that I am incomplete without a without a big bust, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also the thing. I mean, I also follow people that maybe you're I just recently watched like a little reel where someone had a massive growth on their face. So
Hmm.
this might be really something that you've got judged and bullied your whole life. So yes, it's okay. Yeah.
Again, coming from transcendentalism, we know that that person chose that.
Yeah.
There is a lesson there for them. So someone coming from transcendentalism would help them to, probably see the reason why they manifested that for themselves and to heal something within themselves instead of just cut it off. Because the
Yeah.
thing is, that understanding transcendentalism, if you cut it off and move on, you're going to come back in another lifetime or another projection of self, manifestation of self with something similar because you didn't transmute it in the previous life. So it's just like coming from a transcendental perspective, it's like you just don't operate anything,
But
please.
I have a question there for you, like because when you just spoke, for me what came up was like, what if you transmuting it actually is when you get an operation because you've learned it?
That's different. I feel like that's really different. I feel like, yes, of course, you can get that operation. What comes to me when you ask me that question comes that is very different because if you actually go through the process of looking at it, if you actually go through the process of healing it, if you go through the process of recognizing why that was manifested, then you've healed it, cut that off.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the gorgeous thing. And that's where, again, from in my opinion, that's where like we need support in that because our society doesn't teach us about that. Our schools, our family, no one teaches us about that. So I'm like, this is gorgeous example of someone who has something innately that there's really, really unhappy with in their body. They should actually rather go to someone that helps them to find their truth, to learn it, to transmute it, to change it. And then the change can happen in the physical. That's okay. But first, go through the process. Go and understand at the depth of the core what is happening. And I think there is a lot of people who actually do that. I have followed people who did get plastic surgery who went through that process and
Mhm.
looked at it at the core. But I would say probably 95% of people don't do that. They just try to get a quick fix.
Yeah, 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 true.
Mm.
True, true. That makes me think the percentage of people also that have convinced themselves that they need something and then they go through that process and then they realize they don't. For example, I'm somebody that has a very small chest and I'm also very thin. So there's no chance of them growing naturally, if you know what I mean. And not by this time, not at this age anyway. So yeah, for many years, especially through my 20s, I was like, maybe, maybe. And it wasn't that I looked necessarily at the relationship I have with my breasts specifically, it was with my temple entirely. And it had a lot to do with my shame around my sexuality and also about like abuse in the past and etc. Self-confidence also, obviously, self-worth was in there. But once I looked at all of that, I am healing all of my eating disorders. I am fine with my breasts. I actually celebrate now that I can wear very deep, plungy escote, thank you, cleavage, and it doesn't look vulgar, for example, or what I would consider vulgar. I don't want to say vulgar and throw it out there like it's a blanket statement, like there's a standard, because we're talking about standards. But yeah, I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's all about that's again the uniqueness in what we wear is very different on the body we have. And actually, I think there, in my opinion, anyway, we're doing sorry about that, a feminine empowerment podcast here. In my opinion, women are so beautiful and gorgeous, like in general. So I'm like embracing the beauty, innate beauty you have is one of the most important things for me. I have seen women all ages, all shapes that do embrace that. And for me, they're like stunning. And I think the biggest issues we still have nowadays is with body weight and age. Yeah.
Mm.
So I have seen it. I don't know when that was, like months ago. I've seen this gorgeous elder woman. I think she was like around 80. And I was just like, oh my goodness, you're so beautiful. She couldn't take it. She couldn't take that compliment. She didn't believe it that she could be beautiful with 80. And I'm like, what is wrong with our society? There is this innate beauty in old people or elder people when they have their gray and long white gray hair and they just they have this wise energy that is so beautiful. And the same with people who have more body weight. There is this lusciousness and you embrace it that I'm just like, could just stare at you all day long and I would be happy. It's a lot about embracing it. And you see the confidence. When people feel confidence in what they look like, the whole room will turn around, especially women. The whole room will turn and look at them, no matter what you look like. But it's a lot about embracing it. And there is
Absolutely.
a big difference between someone who has had a lot of plastic surgery or changing or like putting up a lot of makeup. I don't actually find people who put on a lot, there's this trend now. You really plaster on makeup like so much that it's like you have to wipe it off. But there is this innate thing, especially where I'm right now, that women don't wear makeup here. But you walk around, you're just like, oh my goodness, there's so much beauty around. It's a lot about embracing, yeah, what you look like.
Yeah, the natural beauty,
Yes.
embracing natural beauty. Absolutely. I think like that's probably like summarizing all that you said there, going from which actually brought up for me when you were saying about the older women. I feel like there's been a lot of shame put onto the crone archetype. You're not supposed, you don't age with grace. You're just getting old and you're useless. They force us to retire. And yet the thing is about the crone, she's such an important archetype because she is actually, and nature is so bloody wise. I don't know if I've already mentioned this, but it was like it hit me like a realization. We go through menopause to guard the wisdom
Yeah.
because birth is actually like our most fertile years. And when we're going through our years of conceiving and birthing, we're putting our body through a lot of stress. And we can actually even have complications that we might even lose our lives. So there is an innate way that our bodies have come up with to conserve the wisdom so that it can continue to be passed through the lineages and through the generations. And yet, this is an archetype that is yeah, outcast. You know, it's like, oh, you're not useful anymore. We have nothing to learn from you because life is moving on without you. Yeah, but wait a second. That's why we are where we are because we're not remembering all that we're supposed to remember. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100% agree.
And that diversity, it's like I love seeing women that are unapologetically themselves and you're coming from somebody that has had eating disorders and has always been very, very thin. I now am able to look at a fuller woman and say, you are fucking amazing and beautiful. And I honor the way that you present yourself. You've got them being their gorgeous selves, big hairs, the big lips, and they're dripping goddess juice everywhere, you know, and they're celebrating. And I think that that's actually what makes us more attractive, more, like I said at the beginning, radiant. When
Yes.
we feel inside, it inevitably comes through.
Yes.
Yeah. So
So
I
what is
shook up
what
and
is
I
that?
got in.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying, so I shook up my hair and I got in front of the camera today.
Amazing. I was like, actually, let's tie it in at the end with like, what is our biggest thing that we want to gift to people, like our teachings around beauty? What is yours? What is that what you really think like, hey, listeners out there, please hear that?
That's a really good question. So I think that the most basic advice, recommendation, inspiration, it would probably be to start to discover what authentic beauty means for you uniquely, individually. And I also realize that this is a bit of a blanket statement because it's like when someone says to you, oh, just go within and feel your purpose. It's not easy to do if you haven't done a sufficient amount of ego degradation or going through your layers. You're not just going to close your eyes and all of a sudden it's going to be like, aha, out of nowhere. But yes, I think it's a redefinition. The first step is a redefinition and it's understanding how you feel that you are beautiful without comparing to what you are consuming.
Mm. Yeah. Yes, makes a lot of sense. I
What
think it's
about?
also letting go, right, of everything that is not yours.
Absolutely. It's like I said last week, it's not so much about becoming more of something it's or less of something. I think it's got to be like neutrality of this and that. It's got to be like becoming more of who you are within, not less of what someone expects or more of what someone expects. It's about that neutrality is going to help you find what is true for you.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I would say that's an important point as well, for sure. And I would add to that that take beauty as a holistic approach. Holistic. What does it mean? As like it entails many different layers. It's not just about your makeup, your hair, your clothes, your jewelry, but it's actually like your inner well-being is as important. I mean, if your intestines are like inflamed, and not happy, your skin will flare up. You're bloated. Like really, it shows in everything. So you gotta take care of what you eat. You gotta take care of you how you feel. You gotta take care of your well-being, like psychological well-being. That's why all of these different steps are really important. And then last but not least, the outside, the external is also how do you present yourself? And it also is this thing of like, how do you show up in the world? Like I said, if you enter a room with confidence, no matter what you look like, no matter what you wear, this will have a huge impact and you will be perceived as beautiful. Especially as women, we have that. So take it as a holistic thing. Think of all the different aspects. Don't just think of one thing. I put on the perfect makeup and I will be beautiful. No, it's not like that. Find
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
deep, deep layers.
Messy hair,
Mm.
lingerie, you in a mirror, and start to fall in love with yourself. I think that's a big recommendation. That helped me a lot, you
Yeah.
know? Anointing myself. I get out of the shower, I get out of the bath, and I've come more into contact with my vessel physically. I massage my breasts. I got over the fact that they're tiny. It's about feeling into your body and saying thank you, legs, for carrying me. Thank you, eyes, for seeing. Thank you, ears. You know, just really appreciating absolutely every inch and fiber of your being. And that will also help you come into more communion and you will start to listen more to what your body wants, you know? I think that's
For
also
for
a
sure.
thing.
I think we got like two really gorgeous teachings there and inspirations for everyone who's listening to start the first step. And obviously, like if you have questions again, and if you are interested in discovering each of these topics more, because we both can support you in that. Individually, we do very different work, but actually the core is very similar. But reach out to us, follow us on Instagram. We have plenty of content that can support you in that and tapping into your truth and tapping into your like into your core and finding, yeah, I think, yeah. Anyway, that's from my side. Thank you so much. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, beautiful. Thank you guys so much for joining us again, and we will see you next time.
Yes, have a beautiful day.